Yeah, it would be better to see you. Would you like?
It's a closed book. And then Rambam says, wait until the events take place, and then you will understand what the prophecy means. I'd like to provide a very brief example of the principle, which is easy for us to understand today. In Isaiah 60, it starts, Kumi ori kibao reach b'chol Hashem alai tzara. There is a passage referring to the ingathering of the exiles. It says, Mi eile ta'av tu'fena hayudim el rutehem. Who are these flying at the height of a cloud like doves with their dumb wings? This is clearly a statement that the ingathering of the exiles will be by air, which before the 20th century was a patent concept. What do you need? And of course, none of the classic commentators could explain this passage. One of them, I think it was the Barbanel, says, well, the ingathering will be by ships and the mast sails on the horizon of the sea look like clouds. So that's the cloud analogy, but it talks about flying, ufenna, and birds. In the modern period, we understand exactly what Isaiah was saying. He says, they're all going to come home by air, flying at the height of clouds and landing in the same place, an airport, just like doves always land in the same place. So here's an example of this principle. We are then left with the question, why did God give the Jews prophecy? What was the purpose of these elaborate descriptions? There are many other examples of this. The Rabbi Saadia Gaon, great leader and scholar of the Jewish people in Babylonia in the 9th century, wrote a treatise called the 10 Principles. And in number 8, if I'm not mistaken, about Yeshua on the redemption, he makes the point that these prophecies are designed for encouragement. Because when the events which are described in such detail in the prophets begin to happen, things that look very ominous will have been explained in advance to be very promising. And this is a source of encouragement to the Jewish people when the redemption begins to unfold. And the exact words he uses there, translated in the Arabic, not by me, I don't speak any Arabic, are Leval Yashu, that the Jews should not despair. And we have various examples of that also. Now isn't the time to go into it, but this is the ultimate reason why these mysterious texts, which nobody understands until they happen, as the Rambam says, were given to us, so that when the things do happen, we will take heart. And with your permission, I've gone on a great length, but I think it's worth elaborating on your observation, which is very, very apt and very appropriate. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, or at least if you come up here, we'll all hear you. Oh, they have a mic. Okay. Yeah, what's your name?
Elran. My name is Elran.
Okay.
English is not my native, is not my mother tongue, so if you will have patience with me, please. I would like to address a question for the honorable man standing here.
Tim Long.
Again? Long? I would like to ask you 2 questions, please. The first will be my experience, which is not vast, tells me that Christians have the difficulty of disattaching themselves and getting rid of the concept of Yeshu as a redeemer, the Son of God. Some are connected to him as the Son of God, and some as a Messiah. What do you think is the right way to tear this element, which is so difficult for us Jews to accept, the divine being of Yeshu, because I see that it's so difficult for them to disattach from this concept, and it's like an obstacle for moving on. And if I may have ask another question, let's say there are communities and congregations all around the world. What is the way, according to your understanding, to spread the concept and to enlarge the congregations? Thank you.
Okay, good question. The idea of disabusing oneself of this concept of who the person I call JC, the J-man. I personally was fortunate in dealing with that. All Noahides who I know who come out of Christianity have to address that first and foremost. And my own particular experience was that I had literally got a crash course in the entire Bible by spending 4 years in a religious cult in East Texas. We seem to grow them in East Texas for some reason. In fact, our cult used to visit other cults. And this particular gentleman that ran this cult was had come to the conclusion by studying the Bible, and when he said Bible, he meant what he called the Old Testament, New Testament. I don't call that the Bible anymore. I call the Tanakh the Bible. But at that time, I called those particular components the Bible. And the thing that I noticed is that like most of humanity, people are often we will take the path of least resistance, and that is that most human beings will sit and listen to a preacher or a minister without actually consulting his sources and finding out if it's true, the statements he's making. I did that. I decided to, while I was in this cult, I decided to see if what they were telling me was true, and most of the time Christians cannot read their own Bible. This is why they're able to be led astray. It's the same way that Jews in America are able to be led into Jews for Jesus, is they don't know their Torah. So if you actually read, even if you read the so-called New Testament, there are enough statements in there that disprove the idea that JC is, God forbid, God. That's one thing. The other thing, and this is what I tell everybody that deals with this question, and it sounds like a simple question, a simple response, but it's the best, and it's simple is always best. The only way you can fight, the only way that a Christian can overcome these misconceptions is with study of Torah. Studying Torah will, if you understand, if you can get someone to accept the idea that the Torah is the final authority, it is the Word of God. That's what happened to me when I finally, quote, got the light, that this was the acid test that I had to measure every truth against was Torah. It will take away any ideas of Jesus as God. And I hope that's a good answer. At least that's the answer that for me personally and for many of my friends. I have found that often and many of you know this already, the other problem with Christianity and coming out of it is that Christianity does not deal in the realm of logic. It deals in the realm of feelings. It deals the way you feel about things. And when you talk to a Christian and you try to deal with them when you try to reason with them together, often when you stymie their argument for who this person was, then they immediately turn back to what they feel about this personage we call Jesus. So if you can get them to reason with you, and if you can get them to see the beauty and the logic and the truth of the Torah, that is the beginning, because there is more. There are so many things in Torah that will dispute the idea of who this person is. And the other question was about communities. What is
your opinion about the way of spreading communities, getting them larger?
I think the best way is to have is for organizations exactly like the organization that we are hosting tonight, the Noahide World Center. The Torah is not going to come forth from Omaha, Nebraska. The Torah is going to come forth from Zion. And the pure and simple Torah coming forth from the Noahide World Center based in Jerusalem is the best way to begin. And because, pardon me for saying so, I have many Jewish friends in the Galut, in the diaspora, and they are missing something when it comes to Torah. They haven't gotten the message that all of you got, that you know you're supposed to be here in the land that Hashem gave you. They're not being honest with themselves. And by not being honest with themselves, they can't be honest with Noahides. They can help. And I think that when more rabbis and more people of the Jewish communities in America and in the other countries begin to reach out to the Noahides and potential Noahides, they will in turn see the truth of where they should be and what they should be doing. So the best way, it should start here with communities like this. There's a friend of mine here tonight who has some wonderful ideas about another center that will be in the old city. I think that he has a wonderful idea. And then, of course, the Temple Institute. I'm sorry, I'm a fan of what this gentleman's doing here, because building the temple, which will be a house of prayer for all nations, and I'm sorry, I'm not one who believes we're supposed to wait for it to be built. Well, there are people that may not agree with me, but the main thing is that I'm trying to do what I can, Sarah. But basically, and I'll finish it with this, God did not give the ark, the Tevah, to Noah. He said, you're a partner in building this salvation called the Tevah. And he did not hand the tabernacle, the Mishkan, to the Jewish people. He said, here, you build it, here's the plan, let's be a partner in this. And that's the whole template for creation anyway. Our joy comes from doing the building with Hashem. So I'll shut up. I could elaborate a little.
I'd like to ask a couple of Yoshua Friedman. I've been involved with the subject of B'nai Noach. Those of you who see the Parshat HaShavua sheets in Hebrew in Gilui Dat for Parshat Noach, I was next to Rav Menachem Burstein. I was at I had the privilege of being his translator at Wendell Jones's conference in Dallas, Fort Worth in 1990. And it's been, I think, a little hard and disappointing over the years, because I think we expected this whole concept to take root more and faster. We got very excited about it a couple of decades ago. And people always ask me, well, how many Noahides, how many believing or practicing or committed Noahides are there in the world? And I have no idea, and I have no idea how to have an idea. And that's one question. That's a small question. It's an almost trivial question, except for the fact that lots of people ask it. It would be a trivial question. Numbers have a tendency to be trivial. And the second question is, when we were dealing with a Christian Western world, the issue of people punching their way out of the bag of Christianity was a very much more serious question. But today, in the post-Christian world, where you have a lot of people who are non-Jews who Christianity does not mean that much to anymore, and you also have I think today we have to answer Islam, and we have to answer all those people going off to India. I think that this is a challenge. Can we do something? Where do we go in terms of developing Noahide consciousness among the non-Christian people of the world? I don't see that. I don't see that happening.
I can't say what other people have done. I think it's safer, yeah, the other way, okay. You're absolutely right. The world does not begin with Christianity and doesn't end with Christianity. What you said about Christians, nominal Christians who aren't really Christian believers is surely right. I think that Europe as a whole, as a so-called continent, is very little Christian in its belief. But I'll talk about Islam. I think the problems with Christianity are, well, just one word about Christians. If you're talking about people who really were brought up as Christians and really take their religion seriously, my experience with various Christian groups has been to teach them just a little bit of Tehillim or something and ask some questions which they never would ask. They're trained not to ask questions on their holy scriptures. And this is so different from our Jewish attitude. We ask questions about everything. And this is part of our culture. And this is what's lacking in Christian culture. They should be questioning. I tell them that the way to, I have, Baruch Hashem, have quite a few grandchildren, and but I ask my grandchildren when I meet them, what did they ask in school today? Not what they learn in school today. They learn in school, they can, but the main thing is the child should be asking questions about everything. And he should get answers, including answers we don't know. He should have to learn that there's such a question. But the Christians that I've met, all of them, and people who were weaned away from Christianity, all said that it all began with asking questions. So that is for someone who's interested in things, teach them some chapter of Tanakh, preferably a short one, and show the questions, say that the Abarbanel or whoever asks on them, and just, you don't even have to bother answering, just seeing that it's legitimate to ask questions about the Holy Scriptures. Really, what we're saying is, we're asking questions about our understanding of the Holy Scriptures. We say they're holy, we have to understand them, and we don't understand them properly. And this, I think, is for, but now about Islam. What?
Muslims also have to learn to ask questions.
Pardon? You have to?
Muslims also have to learn how to ask questions.
Okay, now I'll get to Muslims. Somehow, over the last few years, I've become known. And I received a very strange invitation about in May to come to, I wrote that I was going to this convention, the Noahide convention in Dallas. That was the end of June, right? At the end of July.
July 4th.
At the end of July. Okay, at the end of July 4th.
Weekend.
No, it was July 4th. True, it was July 4th. It was anyway, it was the beginning of July. And I said, on my way back, I'd be coming through England because I don't like the long flights, so I try to break them. And I said, I was offered an invitation, please come to a meeting with Muslims in Britain. The purpose is, you may know that it's written in the Quran that they were instructed when they have difficult problems, they should consult the wise men of the Jews, of the Bnei Yisrael. The wise men of the Bnei Yisrael. For some reason, they thought I was one of the wise men of the Bnei Yisrael. And they asked me, would I come and give them advice on how to correct Islam? I didn't feel I could turn it down, but I really thought, oh dear, if I say anything wrong about Islam, they probably will want to kill me anyway. So maybe I should make my will in Last Testament before going. Then I said, okay, I'll try to do this. I'll try to.
Testament and the Last Testament.
Okay, so I thought I would try the Socratic way of just asking questions. They didn't give me a chance of that. They began saying a lot of things that are wrong about Islam in the way it's expressed in today's world. Not only radical Islam, but even less radical Islam. There's all sorts of Islam. The people there were not Arabs. The people there were Muslims from Africa, from Asia, and from Europe. There were also some British people who were born into a Christian society, but they converted to Islam. I won't tell you what the advice I gave them. This would take a little bit long. One of the things I did say is that Moshe Rabbeinu made mistakes, recorded mistakes, and we discussed his mistakes. It is also possible to conceive that Muhammad also made mistakes, and not everything that Muhammad does has to be emulated. This was just one of the ideas, but there are a lot of other ideas that came up and that were discussed. So then we were on a video conference, on a web conference with people in Sudan, in the Muslim part of Sudan. And in August, I met the sheikh in whose madrasa, they was in his school. That was the other side of the web conference with this sheikh. And later I met him in Amman. I went to Jordan to meet him in the home of his daughter, who's married to a professor of internet technology in Amman. And it's quite clear that there are a lot of Muslims who are very interested. If there are 1.3 billion Muslims, so let's say there are a few hundred million, who are interested in improving the Islam. As a result of these meetings, I began to formulate formulate a executive summary, or you may call it, of an institute for the study and clarification of religions with an S at the end. It transpires, I didn't know this, but I spoke to Rabbi David Rosen, and from him I learned that the Catholic Church has also made a statement, formal statement, that they have to improve their religion, and that they should do it in contact with the Jews. And Islam is also. And I have also spoken to some Rosh Yeshivas, Litvish Rosh Yeshivas, and they also agree there is room for improvement in our thoughts also. So, so I think Ezrat Hashem, we need a lot of Ezrat Hashem, and we should be praying for Ezrat Hashem in everything we do. In the Nusach Sfard it says, Shaloni Vosh V'Loni Kalem V'Loni Kasher L'Olam Va'ed. The big, great prayer, Loni Kasher L'Olam Va'ed, but we have to pray for that and hope that God will bless us with understanding so that we will know what our job should be. And I think that Jim Long has it absolutely right, that his job is not to become another Jew, but his job is to be a leader of Noahides. And I wish you a lot of success, and we'll help you.
Very positive note. I think we're going to close this session. I think we learned a lot, all of us. I was told that there's a light supper downstairs. You're all invited.
Before the next section, yes.
If I understood correctly, the final session, I think it's
Will be up here.
7:30 will be here.
So, Toda Rabba.
In Hebrew. Final session is in Hebrew. Final session is in Hebrew.
Final
Final
session
session
will
will
be
be, yes.
Yeah, a lot of important people are going to be.
Wonderful voice is well appreciated from the outside, I'm sure. And Jim, I think you had a really wonderful thing to say about the plaques of the kings. And I think that this is most of the people here are living here. I think it's really important, especially with converts who had to go the trail, to start bringing together some points, because the book that you brought out, sir, is got a problem, as far as I'm concerned, with B'nai Noah. because it's really written for Jews. It's not written for Christians, and it's not written for any religion other than Judaism. And it's got, you know, wonderful thoughts and everything to it, but it's not how to read this for many years, that the Jewish people are like the augur of time, okay? And time turns with certain things coming to powers over and over in history. And right now we're having the dry bones of whales appearing in the desert and things like this. And I think B'nai Noach is also reaching its peak with that, with returning the Noahides. You know, it's kind of funny, it starts with the animals like Noah, but that this religion has got to go. But I think we need to work here on having a center for people to come to Israel and visit. You know, people dedicating their time, and I think we have to, an open thing, not Sanhedrin meetings and not, you know, somewhere where they can go and find out information. And also, I think it's important to address the religious leaders and then formulate, like you're saying, with the different people addressing their religions right now. We know the Jews recoded every religion there is to a power that's delineated from Torah. So there is truth in everything. And to find that truth, and like Rav Schwartz's 7 Colors of the Rainbow, everybody has a specific area of shades that they fall into, their religion falls into. And that's why Torah brings up all the gods we're supposed to forget and not believe in, and names them. And I think when that happens, then the thing to do is to go to the heads of the nations, because the nations are being turned over right now. Things are changing. And I think it's all the timing for B'nai Noach. And thank you very much.
בני נוח. ברית עולם, המרכז העולמי לבני נוח, הוא גוף שקם מתוך רצון לתת מענה לקהילות שהולכות וגדלות, מתוך התעוררות גדולה בקרב הציבור הרחב בעולם כולו, שרוצה, מבקש ודורש מעם ישראל שייתן לו מענה. ציבור שמבקש את אלוהי ישראל, דרך מדינת ישראל, דרך עם ישראל, ואנחנו, הקטנים, מנסים לעשות את זה. כיום, הארגון נותן מענה ל-12 פעילות קהילות, ועוד, אני חושב שקרוב לאלפים של יחידים מסביב, שמגיעים לאתר, שואלים שאלות, מדברים. והנושא השני שאנחנו עוסקים בו מאוד, הוא בעצם הבשורה האוניברסלית של עם ישראל. אני לא אאריך בדברים, בגלל שהרב בורשטיין ככה מזדרז, אבל אני עוד ארחיב אחר כך. אז אני מתכבד את ראשון הדוברים להזמין, הרב מנחם בורשטיין, מי שייסד ועומד בראש מכון פועה, המכון לפוריות לאור ההלכה בירושלים, ורב בישיבת מרכז הרב. הרב בורשטיין עסק מטעם הרב מרדכי אליהו במשך שנים רבות בעניין בני נוח, והוא כאן כדי לחלוק איתנו את הדברים.
תודה רבה. הזכות הטכנית, מה שיצא, שיוצא לי לדבר הראשון, כמובן שהיינו צריכים לשמוע קודם את הרב שרקי, אבל בגלל בעיות לוז, אז מחכים לי לעוד איזה שיעור, אז התקבעתי להיות הראשון, ואני חושב שהסיבה היא מאוד פשוטה, שקודם צריך לדבר על הצדדים ההיסטוריים, מה שהיה, ואחר כך לראות את המצב העכשווי שאנחנו רואים ברוך השם כאן. צריך לדעת שזו התרגשות גדולה וזכות גדולה שאנחנו היום נמצאים כאן,